Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're doing the top 10 most useful abilities to counter Alfrike. This is mostly in the context of Rush War, since Alfrike is almost never used in any other war. Before I go into the countdown, please like, comment, subscribe, and share among your alliance if you find this content useful. Now that we got the shameless plug out of the way, let's get into the countdown. At number 10, we have Status Effect Block. This does not prevent Alfrike from firing her special, but it prevents her from mindless attack. In this category, we have Melosi. So Melosi has arguably one of the most satisfying special animation. Other than that, he deals 300%. He does the status effect block for 3 turns. At number 9, we have Mana Reduction. This ability reduces Alfrike's mana to 50% when her mana is full while inflicting damage. At the top of this list, we have Xandrilla. She deals 450% damage to the target and all ice enemies. When their mana is full, she does 407 damage to the target and reduces their mana to 50%. This effect lasts for 4 turns. The next we have Hansel, which he deals 255% damage to the target, does 21% damage when their mana is full, and then reduces their mana by 50% for 3 turns. And then lastly we have Gretel, which she deals 175% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies, does 21% damage when their mana is full, and reduces to 50% for 3 turns. At number 8, we have Taunt. This special prevents enemies from using their special skills on the caster's allies. At the top of this list, we have Ludwig. He casts Taunt for 6 turns. He gets 84% defense against special skills for 6 turns. He also charges allies' mana slowly, increasing every turn until it gets to 100% by the 6th turn. Next up, we have Black Knight. He casts Taunt for 4 turns. He has 50% chance to drop damage from the enemies to 1. He also gives all allies 50% attack. Next up, we have Black Knight. He casts Taunt for 3 turns. He has 50% chance to drop receive damage to 1 for 3 turns. He also gives all allies 45% attack and increases with each damage they receive. Next up, we have Krampus. He casts Taunt for 3 turns. He summons an elf minion for each ally with 10% HP and 10% attack. He gives all allies 50% attack as well. Next up, we have Kara. She casts Taunt for 4 turns. She gets 74% defense against special skills. She also gives 34% attack to all allies. Lastly, we have Oni Wakamaru. He's a part of the ninja family. He has 3 charges, with each charge giving boosted health, undispellable taunt, and counterattack. Ninjas are not optimal on Rush War just because they require more tiles to charge than what they would regularly charge at. And I skipped Custom Krampus because simply he's been neutered. At number 7, we have Mana Reduction. This ability summons minions that can drain the enemy's mana each turn as long as they're up. At the top of this list, we have Water Pipe. Water Pipe summons minions for every ally with 12% HP and 20% attack. These minions drain 5% mana for each attack. They also give 30% minus defense against special skills for 2 turns for each enemy hit. It also makes the target immune to new status effect buff for 2 turns. Next up, we have Lady of the Lake. So Lady of the Lake recovers 42% health for all allies. She also summons magical sword minions for the caster and nearby allies with 14% HP and 15% attack. These minions drain 10% mana for each hit on the enemy. At number 6, we have Mana Gain Block. This ability prevents Alfrike from gaining mana. It does not prevent her from firing her special when her mana is full. First up, we have Hell. She deals 315% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. She blocks mana gain for 3 turns. She deals extra damage against Holy. Next up, we have Proteus. He gives poison damage of 327 damage over 3 turns. He also blocks mana gain to the target and nearby enemies for 3 turns. Next up, we have Goretooth. He deals 430% damage to the target, gets 45% minus defense for 2 turns, and also the target can gain mana for 2 turns. At number 5, we have Mindless Attack. This gives Alfrike Mindless Attack when her mana is full and resets her mana to 0. Top of this list, we have Cupido. He gives 295% damage to the target and nearby enemies. They get Healing Gift when their mana is full. They heal your allies. This effect lasts for 3 turns. Next up, we have the notorious Alfrike, and who here did not taste those cubes? She cast 5 cubes, each dealing 200% damage, reduces max health, and gives Mindless Attack for 3 turns. Next up, we have Lord Loki, who copies Alfrike's special and gives her a taste of her own medicine. Next up, we have Kullervo. He deals 300% damage to the target and 470% damage to a random enemy. Those 2 enemies get Mindless Attack for 3 turns. This is non-cleansable for dark enemies. Next up, we have Bubbles. He deals 480% damage to the target, gives 44% minus defense for 4 turns, and casts Shifting Mindless Attack on the enemy for 3 turns, which resets on each Mindless Attack. Next up, we have Hohenwerf. He deals 450% damage to the target, gives a fiend that casts Mindless Attack on the enemy for 4 turns, and then pops if it doesn't go away. Then we have Waddles, which is the 4-star version of Bubbles. And lastly, we have Zoc. He deals 300% damage to the enemy. He gives Mindless Attack for 3 turns. At number 4, we have Silence. This skill prevents Alfrike from releasing her special as long as this element is up. At the top of the list, we have Mickey. He casts Silence to the target and nearby enemies for 5 turns. He also gives all allies an additional 130% normal attack. Next up, we have Li Shu. She gives Silence to the target and nearby enemies for 3 turns. She also deals 270% damage to the target and nearby enemies. We then have Titok. He gives 320% damage to the target. He silences the target for 4 turns. He also gives 100 poison damage over 4 turns. Lastly, we have Peters. He deals 320% damage to the target, and he silences the target for 3 turns. At number 3, we have Status Element Protection. This ability gives protection against Alfrike's Mindless Attack as long as the status ailment protection is up. At the top of this list, we have Aramis. He gives 375% damage to the target and nearby enemies. He boosts all allies' health by 30% of the damage dealt. He also makes all allies immune to new status ailments for 3 turns, and it's non-dispellable. Next up is Guardian Gazelle. He removes all status effects from all allies except the caster. He heals all allies of 48%. He also gives all allies increasing attack and reduced incoming damage except for the caster. And if the caster dies, all allies lose 100% mana. Next up, we have Guardian Gazelle. He is the suckier version of costing Guardian Gazelle, as he does not heal, and his effect also lasts for 3 turns. Next up, we have Hathor. Hathor boosts health of all allies by 480. Boosted health can exceed max HP. All allies are immune to new status ailments for 4 turns. Next up is Cleopatra. She recovers 65% health for all allies. All allies are immune to new status ailments for 3 turns, and each time a status ailment is casted, allies recover 205 health. We then have Phase. Phase boosts health of all allies by 350. The boosted health can exceed max HP, and he gives status ailment protection for 4 turns. He also gives 30% defense for 4 turns. Next up, we have Vanda. She deals 115% damage to all enemies. She casts a 51% healing effect for each time the enemy heals. She also casts ailment protection for all allies for 3 turns. Then we have Costin Poseidon. He deals 480% damage to the target, and all allies are immune to new status effect for 3 turns. Then we have Emilio. He gives burn damage to all enemies and gives ailment protection for 3 turns. If burn damage is casted again while the enemies have burn damage, all allies get healing in addition. Then we have Vanda. She gives 125% damage to all enemies, steals 61% of any healing effect the enemy has, and then gives immune protection for 2 turns. Then we have Garnet. Garnet is one of the ninjas as well. She has 3 charges, and with each charge she gives boosted health and status ailment protection, with the first charge being 2 for 2 turns. As we said, ninjas are not the best for Rush War, as they require more tiles to charge than their normal tile need for the charges. Last one is Ptolemy. He recovers 30% health for all allies. The caster and nearby allies are immune to new status effect for 3 turns, and he recovers 175 health for each attempted status ailment. At number 2, we have status ailment Reflect. This ability reflects Alfrike's mindless attack back at the enemies as long as the reflect is up. At the top of the list, we have Milady de Winter. She deals 385% damage to all enemies. The caster regenerates 918 HP over 6 turns. When enemies cast buff, this gets transferred to all allies. When allies get status ailment, this gets transferred to random enemies. This effect lasts for 6 turns. Next we have Ferdinand. Ferdinand cleanses status ailment from all allies. All allies get 63% defense for 4 turns. All allies share received damage with each other for 4 turns. They reflect status ailment for 4 turns, and they also get health increase for 4 turns. Next up, we have Hawthorne. He regenerates 672%, boosted health for all allies over 4 turns. He also reflects status ailment for all allies to enemies for 4 turns and regenerates moderate amount of mana for all allies. Next up, we have Kitty. She regenerates 450 boosted health over 3 turns for all allies and reflects status ailment for 3 turns. Lastly, we have Miriam and Midnight. She summons Lucan minions for caster and nearby allies. The minion inherits 40% HP and 20% attack from the caster. They recover 15% health at the end of each turn. They give rage to the caster and nearby allies. And as long as you have these kittens up, they reflect status ailment not immediately, but at the end of each turn. And finally, at number 1, we have passive resistance. This ability gives the hero innate resistance against Alfrike's mindless attack. At the top of the list, we have Mickey again, who gives silence for 5 turns and boosted attack for all allies. We then have Cupido again, who she gives damage to target nearby enemies and then gives healing gift to target nearby enemies for 3 turns. Then we have Hanitra. She gives 45% chance to dodge special skills for 3 turns for all allies, and each dodge you get boosted health 275 for 3 turns. And lastly, we have Himeros. He dispels buffs from the target, deals 460% damage to the target, and the caster and nearby allies get an additional 40% damage for 3 turns. And with this, we conclude the top 10 abilities that counterattack Alfrike. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you think some other abilities should have made the list, please let me know down below in the comment. If you don't agree with some of the ranking, tell me which ranking you think would be best. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.